Good morning. This is Cecil and Blues. Thank you for joining me for this Final Fantasy XIV guide. Today, I would like to give you a brief bit of strategy for Baelsar's Wall. This dungeon feels like it is tuned just a little bit harder than other Heavensward dungeons, so proceed with caution if you are near the minimum item level. I will only be providing details for the bosses. Trash always tends to sort itself out. There is a bit of a spoiler regarding the final boss of this dungeon, so weigh your priorities as we move forward. The first boss is the Magitek Predator. It has just a few abilities that you will need to watch out for. Magitek Claw is a tank buster. Use tanking cooldowns to reduce incoming damage. Magitek Ray is a straight-line telegraph with a fairly long cast time that can be easily avoided. A red crosshair, giving you the Prey debuff, indicates that you are the target for the Magitek Missile ability. Move away from other players to avoid splash damage. The AoE radius is not very large, so you won't have to move that far. Reinforcements will spawn 2 at a time throughout this fight. The Sky Armor reinforcements will each link to a non-tank party member, dealing damage over time with their Magitek hook. DPS should kill these with priority. The tank does not need to worry about them. Continue to focus the boss between reinforcement waves and avoid the telegraphs. The second boss is the Armored Weapon. It has a fair number of abilities that you will need to keep track of. Launcher deals a small amount of damage to the whole party. Diffractive Laser is a ground-targeted AoE. Move away from the telegraph. Magitek Bit spawns rows of adds on 2 walls who will fire, creating a checkered floor pattern. Stand in one of the safe spaces to avoid damage. The adds will despawn after firing once. Distress Beacon spawns a room full of weak adds that must be AoE'd down quickly. Dynamic Sensory Jammer is the primary mechanic of this fight. After it finishes casting, all players will be afflicted with the debuff Extreme Caution. If you move, use abilities, or auto-attack while afflicted, you will receive retribution, taking damage, getting tossed into the air, and receiving a 5-second stun for good measure. When you see Dynamic Sensory Jammer casting, you can press Escape to drop target, and then wait for the debuff to expire before re-engaging. The fight will troll you by putting other telegraphs on you while you are afflicted with Extreme Caution. Resist your instincts. The final boss, last chance to avoid a minor story spoiler, is the Griffin. There are quite a few abilities to keep track of in this fight. Beak of the Griffin deals minor unavoidable damage to the whole party. Flash Powder is a visual AoE that has the traditional telegraph. Turn to face away from the boss to avoid an accuracy down debuff as well as a 5-second stun. Sanguine Blade is a massive AoE that covers most of the arena. Move to the safe space behind the Griffin to avoid damage. The Griffin will dash to a new location just before he begins casting this spell. Keep an eye on him to give yourself a head start. Claw of the Griffin is a tank buster. Use mitigation cooldowns to reduce the damage spike. Lion's Head is a multi-stage ability that requires healer attention. First, multiple swords will rain down, each dealing around 800 damage to the whole party, followed by a final hit that deals around 11,000 damage. Once Lion's Head finishes dealing damage, all 8 blades of the Griffin turn into adds and will start to cast an AoE called Corrosion, whose telegraphs overlap to cover the entire arena. Destroy the sword in the middle to create a safe space for the party to stand. The Griffin will use an ability called Big Boot on a single player. This will kick them to the edge of the room. They will have just enough time to get back to the center before Corrosion finishes casting. If you have a movement ability, have it ready for this moment. Griffin will cast Restraint Collar, which spawns an add called Restraint Collar that locks down a party member in a prison. Destroy the Restraint Collar to release them before the Restraint Collar finishes casting Restraint Collar. Nope, that paragraph wasn't confusing. Griffin will continue to repeat these mechanics throughout the fight. continue to manage them, and eventually his hit points will be reduced to 0. That's the entire dungeon. Please enjoy your story cutscene, and have a great day.